Hi, folks. Thanks for jumping on here. We were kind of hanging on for a few minutes to see if we were going to have other people joining us. Looks like it's going to be a smaller one today. I think everyone's in holiday mode after Thanksgiving here. Um, so, what I think I'm going to do is allow the ability for folks on the call to interact with us if they want to. I think I can do that. So instead of the sort of usual approach where you maybe put the Q&A in, feel free to, well, you can use that if you like, but if you want to also jump in and say hello and whatnot, you're more than welcome to. But yeah, my name's Gareth Young. I'm the founder and chief architect of Levacloud. We're a Microsoft security and compliance partner. All we do is Defender, Intune, Purview, and a bit of Azure all day long. And we've been working with customers to get them ready for Copilot, show them Copilot for security, and also help them secure Microsoft 365 Copilot. We've been doing a lot of those kind of readiness things. And on with me today is Patrick McDonald. It's a great Scottish name, that actually, Patrick. Just realizing that. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm a product manager here at Microsoft, specializing this year in Copilot for security. So I am looking forward to explaining and hopefully demystifying a little bit of the, security Copilot experience for customers. Those name changes even take us by surprise.
Yeah, people forgetting which way around it is. Um, well, all right, let's sort of jump into things here. So, taking a step back, generative AI in general, the adoption's been really rapid and definitely fast paced. I've never seen a technology that's kind of taken off the way this has. You've got so many people trying to jump on the train whilst it's still in that really early phase. I mean, it's quite unusual, and of course that's given us lots of opportunities and challenges at the same time. Now, Microsoft Copilot, it builds off of OpenAI's sort of ChatGPT ecosystem. Um, Microsoft's taken that and built it into the Microsoft 365 and Azure platform in all sorts of different forms, as you can see here. And by leveraging these tools within the ecosystem, you're really enabling employees to be able to be efficient in a way that's secure and controllable. I'd say that's one of the big benefits of Copilot for Microsoft 365, especially, but also be very much more productive and up their skill set, honestly, from a security standpoint, which is where Security Copilot comes into play that we're going to be talking a lot about today. Now, talking specifically about this Security Copilot, this is way beyond what ChatGPT does. This is a tool that's deeply integrated into your environment specifically. And, I say your environment because it really is sort of ring fenced to it. And it's also fed with Microsoft's threat intelligence database. That's what it's trained off of. We're going to learn a little bit more about that as we go through here. Now, what it's really designed for is to help your security team triage, investigate, and respond to incidents faster within the environment. Someone who has a good base level of security response, security operations type knowledge, can tackle things that maybe otherwise would have had to have been escalated and it would have taken more time to triage essentially. So, this is a productivity tool, an efficiency tool that's designed to level up your security analyst skills, if you like. So it's not replacing them, it's enhancing them. We're doing a bit of augmentation here. I'm sure, you're starting to think about sci-fi movies and that kind of thing, but that's really where the world's moving towards with this stuff, right? And, we're also in a place where threat actors are starting to use Gen AI as well. So we need to, empower our organizations to have, the extra muscles to be able to safeguard against all these different type of attacks and react to them really quickly, right? Now, Copilot for Security, or Security Copilot, depending on which day of the week it is both proactive and reactive. It can help with the discovery and remediation of vulnerabilities in the organization, which is definitely on the proactive side of things. And then reactively on the other side, it can aid in, incident response type situations. It can be used to get quick insights for reporting, and it's really valuable as well for keeping leadership and other key stakeholders informed. You can get it to produce some nice, like, executive level reports on, different incidents that you might have been working on. Now, this thing's plugged into all aspects of the Microsoft security and compliance ecosystem. So it's not just Defender. It can be used across the other areas as well. And I'm sure Patrick's going to be talking a little bit about that here in a second. And, just something to think about, when these AI tools, especially the more public ones, are not used in a sort of secure or appropriate manner, you can get to a situation where data breaches can occur, and reputational damage can be, a serious risk from stuff that's, just taken and pasted out into those public generative AI tools. And with Security Copilot, it's been designed from the ground up, like I say, to safeguard your data. It's ring fenced to your environment. So anything that's put into it is not going to go out into the outside world for someone to be able to crawl or look at or anything like that. So Patrick, I think, let's pass things over to you here and take us on a little bit of a tour of what this thing is and make it a bit more real.
Sure thing. So I will take over the screen sharing, and you should be able to see the presentation on my screen now.
Yeah.
So, I started over. Oh, goodness. I didn't mean to do that. So we have two experiences in Security Copilot. There's the standalone experience, which is just kind of the raw Security Copilot product. And then we have the embedded Security Copilot experiences. And these are the ones that we find most customers get the value out of quickest. So what I want to do is kind of talk about some of those embedded experiences first, and then we'll do a demo of what some of those embedded experiences look like across a few different products. So the embedded experiences are intended to help you out wherever you currently work, right? So if you are an Intune admin, if you are a Purview admin, an Entra admin, or you're wearing the hats of everybody and doing it all across your organization, rather than trying to funnel you into the Security Copilot portal and saying, hey, you got to do your stuff in there. Each of these platforms has the ability to kind of plug in to the Copilot platform and leverage the data and the threat intelligence for their particular products and make it a bit more streamlined. So we have Security Copilot in Microsoft Entra. So if you're trying to examine risky users, get sign-in logs and evaluate them, stuff like that, you can do that straight in the Microsoft Entra portal. Microsoft Intune offers support. So if you're in Intune and you want to help creating a new Intune policy, or you don't know what an Intune setting does, you can get that help directly in Microsoft Intune without having to leave the portal. The Unified SOC platform, if you've integrated Sentinel into the Unified SOC platform, we can help you come up with queries for hunting for threats. And doing incident response and all that kind of stuff inside the one portal without having to leave. Is a great one for keyword query language, which is not Custo query language. It's a different KQL, but it's a way of writing your prompts so that you can search for data exfiltration, stuff like that. You can actually put in what you're looking for, and we'll generate the keyword query language directly for you in the portal that you can use in order to assist with your investigations. And Defender for Cloud will give you incident response and where you stand as far as your cloud security goes. Just right in the portal, you get that information in real time and act on it and ask some additional questions. So what I want to do is just go ahead and leave this presentation, which is why I have it in the window, and go straight to the intro portal, and we can just take a look at some of the stuff that you can do with Security Copilot. So if I'm looking at Intra, I'm going to go to Identity Protection and Risky Users. And in my risky users, you will see there is a user here. U3713 is at risk. So if I click this user, the panel is going to open up, and then automatically I'm going to get a summary from Copilot as to like why this user might be risky. So as you can see, there was a high risk activity. It is password spray. And the risk detection is triggered when a password spray attack has been successfully performed. So in this case, this user, it was logged in successfully with a password spray attack. So there's possible that this user might not be doing stuff in the portal right now. There may be an attacker already in your environment. So what you can do is then you can open up Copilot. There's a button here at the top. You can kind of see it, Copilot. And I'm going to copy and paste something here so I don't have to type it. And all I'm going to say is, hey, for this user, give me the audit logs for the past 24 hours of like what this user might have been doing in the portal. Because now you know that it's quite possible that the actual user isn't doing these things. So I've asked for it for the past 24 hours in table format. You can, adjust this if you want. It will examine the audit logs and start determining what was responsible. And we're just going to sit in silence for a few seconds while it starts pumping out. But there we go. So while it's pumping out its response, I can't maneuver around it, but you see it's fulfilled access packages successfully. These are all audit events that you can then take to the next level and examine and be like, hey, what are these access packages? Why were they requested? Were they the actual user? Were they the attacker? This just kind of helps you in your investigation for this risky user. So it's a good summary of just something you can start doing in Intra. Let's move over to Intune. So if you're familiar with the Intune portal, this is what we look like. So I'm gonna open up the device list. Let's go to Windows. And I've got some non-compliant devices. So maybe I want to find out why these devices are not compliant without spending a lot of time trying to examine them. If I start hovering over the devices, you can see my mouse cursor. You'll see the Copilot button start generating next to the device list. So I'm just going to click the Copilot button for this guy right here. We'll open up on the side. I want to say summarize this device. So rather than me like opening the device and then trying to figure out, going to the compliance setting, drilling down through the compliance setting and saying, hey, why isn't this device compliant? I'll just wait for Copilot to generate my response about the device and say, see what it says about the non-compliant status. I think we're done. Yep, we're done. So non-compliance reasons. So the compliance policy setting require remain contact is not compliant. So my guess is at this point, the device just hasn't checked in a while. I can close this window and take a look at, yeah, there it is, last check-in, 9/26/24. If you know what you're looking for, you'll see that information, you might see it right away. You might be like, oh, non-compliant, oh, look at that check-in. But especially for younger admins that may not know, it's a great way to help point them in the right direction and help even train them with their job. Like, hey, why isn't this device compliant? What are some of the common reasons? Stuff like that. So you can also do it from the device panel. So if you're examining a device, you can click Explore Device. I've seen some people like the compare to another device. If there's software that's installed on one device and not installed on the other device, you can take that second device and pop it in here and say, hey, what are my discovered app differences? What are my hardware differences? What's my compliance policy assignment differences? And we'll actually compare those two devices in the portal and give you an output. Another cool thing I like in Intune is under configuration. So I'm going to go back to Windows and configuration and take a look at all of our configuration policies we have in the tenant here. We get a lot of questions around BitLocker usually, because usually BitLocker is it's just hard to decide what settings to use and stuff like that. So I'm going to take a look at the settings catalog policy for BitLocker. Let's see what the settings are here. Yeah, BitLocker, drive encryption, there's some settings enabled. If you're familiar with Intune, then you're most likely familiar with the little informational buttons here. So if you click these informational buttons, you will get kind of the generic overview of what the policy is, with the link to go to the additional documentation that has the exact settings of the documentation. But what you're also noticing now is now we've got a Copilot button. So rather than just kind of being able to read the generic policy decision, I can actually like say, hey, for this encryption method for fixed data drives, actually like go out a little bit further and give me some more information of like this particular setting right here. So if you click this button, we'll go out, we'll check all the Intune sources. So remember that Security Copilot is trained on just security data. So it's not a generic LLM. It's trained on like all of our docs, all of our threat intelligence, all of our signals from all of our services like Bing and Xbox and Azure and stuff like that. So all your information is very narrowly scoped to just the security profile. So you can see here, it's like, okay, I got the setting, and if I enable it, you can configure the encryption. It is for fixed and operating system drives, it's recommended to use. For removable drives, it's recommended to use a different one. If you disable or do not configure, we'll use the default. All that kind of stuff is there automatically. You can even say down here at the bottom, you can take this a step further with some prompts and be like, how could this setting affect users? And we'll tell you some information as like, oh, if you deploy this, this is how it might impact your users in your tenant. And this is available for all the settings in Settings Catalog. I think it's a really neat thing for Intune admins to be able to just be like, what does this setting do, and get kind of an immediate in prompt response. I don't think we have another policy setting, so that's why I got an error here, but get the idea. Let's move on to Defender. So I've already got an incident open in Defender because full disclosure, Defender incident summaries take a while. So there's a lot of information to go through. So I just have this one kind of open. It's a lateral movement incident in Defender. So when you open a Defender incident, the Copilot will open automatically and start giving you an incident summary. So the incident summary will tell you like, hey, how did this happen? When was it discovered? What have we done? Are they still here? All this kind of stuff like this. This is just a great way to get an overview of the entire incident without having to go step by step through the incident summary. And then down here at the bottom, we have a feature called Guided Response. And guided response actually will help SOC analysts and responders decide what to do in order to respond to this incident. So these are common things that organizations usually do. Contact user, verify their activity and identities, anybody involved in the incident. Down here, if you want to disable the user and AD, you can do that. If you want to force a password reset, we'll do that. So again, this is a great way for helping out the users that may not be as experienced in handling incidents, what to do next, right? So once you're done, you can even, I haven't done this one yet, you can generate an incident report. So if you ever have to do like reporting out to senior leadership, like, oh, hey, we had an incident, here's what happened, here's what we did, here's the steps we took, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to find the Copilot incident summary reporting very handy. You're going to be able to just go in there, click the button for the incident report, wait a couple of minutes, get it, copy and paste it into your email, do a look over it, and submit it to your senior leadership team so they can be informed of what you're doing. So I'm not going to sit here and wait for it, but that is an overview of the main features that we have well, here we go. It printed out anyways. Great. The main features we have in some of the most used portals in our environment. So let's talk about the standalone experience next. So the standalone experience is really used for the security admins that want to put it all together at the end. So the embedded experiences are great if you're working in like one particular product, you're working in Intune, you're working in Entra, you're working in Purview often. The standalone experience is where you can kind of combine all of those things into one session, right? Rather than having separate sessions. So here's some of the use cases that we have for the standalone experience. We'll talk about a couple of these. We'll do some demos in the lab here, but the ones that I like, reverse engineering of scripts. So if you are a responder and you've ever had to tear apart a PowerShell script and examine it and figure out what's going on, Copilot for Security will make that super easy. I want to show you in the standalone portal how that works. So in the standalone portal, I'm just going to say, hey, here's a skill. I'm going to click this. There's two buttons down here at the bottom where the prompt is. Here's a prompt. Let's search for PowerShell. Oh, okay. Well, I'll do script. Let me do script. Oops. Search that again. There we go. Script analyzer. Run a script analyzing command. So once you pick that, you can copy and paste the script to be analyzed. So I got a sample PowerShell script here. This is actually the same script used to trigger the Defender for Endpoint test to make sure Defender for Endpoint is installed. So it's just a great little test. So you can decide to look at a script, hit send, and we will break this script down line by line, hopefully. My session might have expired. There we go. I'm going to let it do it in real time just so you can see what it does line by line. There you go. So we'll break down what each action does. So if you've got a PowerShell script that you need to break apart and try to figure out what it's doing, this is a massive time saver. This is one of our most used features. So I know we talked about the data in your tenants and how Security Copilot isn't trained on your data. But oftentimes it might be helpful to reference some of your data when you're doing an incident response. So I want to talk about another feature that's available in the standalone portal that will help you do that, and that's file uploading. So even though we don't train the LLM on your data, what you might want to do is upload a file. And in this case, I've got this SANS hunting poster that gives you information on like all kinds of different attacks and everything like that are going on for lateral movement. You can sit here and you could print this out, put it on your wall, and read it every day as you drink your coffee to try to learn what's going on. But you know, who's got time for that, right? So what I'm going to do is in the sources button. So we've got two buttons down there, and one of them is props, one of them is sources. There's a file section. So I'm just going to upload this file. It's on my desktop, this SANS file. So this can be, not just files like this, but this can also be stuff like your acceptable use policies, your data handling policies, your privacy policies, any kind of information specific to your org that you have documented, you can put in here and then reference it in Copilot for Security. So what I would do is once I have this uploaded, I'm going to copy and paste this command out of here. And I haven't ran this command yet, so I don't know if there's any affected devices in this tenant, but we'll find out. So what I do is I just ask a question. It was like, hey, can you show me the event IDs for remote execution based off this PDF document in my files, and put it in a table format. So you would just do the same thing for anything else in your environment. So if you have a data handling policy, that document that you uploaded, and you wanted to do a purview investigation against that document, you would just do the same thing. It was like, hey, reference my document on data handling and show me any users that may have violated this policy within the last 7 days. And we'll use that document to help search for any violations. So I hit enter. I can see it's just taking a second, but it will take a look. And if we get any event IDs out of here, I'll ask it a second question. So the standalone experience again is where you want to come when you're kind of free forming it. Right, there we go. So we got some responses. So what I want to do is say, hey, leveraging these event IDs, hunt my Defender environment for anything that may have triggered it. And this is where I don't know if it's going to trigger anything, just based off my my demo environment. We're doing this live, so uh, we'll see. We'll see how good our little demo tenant here is secured. Yeah, we got one. Oh, a total of more than 150 events were found with 13. So we can pop this open and you can see it, or you can actually export this to Excel and dump it out. So hopefully that's a great indication of some of the time you can save with Security Copilot in the standalone experience. So I know I also said that this standalone experience is where you kind of put it all together, right? So if you're on kind of a SOC admin and you want to kind of determine what's going on with a particular user, who am I in this tenant? I'm 2542. So what I'll say is tell me the logon events for a user. I've already forgot my number. U2524. So what it'll do is whenever you ask it a question, it'll examine like, hey, what are you looking for? And what skill does Security Copilot have that most closely examine or closely matches whatever information you're looking for? So like in this case, I'm like, hey, tell me about my logon events for my user. And it's like, oh, hey, well, this is a Microsoft intro. You asked because you're asking for logon events, so we're picking intro. So here's my logon event that's happening recently, and it's pretty close to what's going on here. And then I want to say, instead of referencing this user, what I'll say is, does this user have any managed devices? Because you're in one session now, uh, the context from question to question uh, is maintained. So every new session starts over just a new prompt. But if I ask this question in the same session, it knows that I'm asking about user 2524. I don't have to ask again. And there are no Intune managed devices for this user, which is correct. I don't have any devices. But then I can say, what are the MFA methods for this user? And we're back to Microsoft Entra. Yep, Microsoft Authenticator. And then does this user have any privileged roles? And you can kind of just ask questions on a specific incident. So like if I was doing a Defender hunting incident, I can start off with that. I can say, hey, referencing incident number whatever, give me the list of devices. Are those devices compliant? Who are the users logged into those devices, et cetera, and then build it upon each other in the one question. Great, this looks perfect. So the last thing I want to talk about in the standalone experience is that I know we've talked about stuff that is very Microsoft centric to Security Copilot, but kind of think of Security Copilot as a platform that has plugins. And those plugins are, of course, definitely Microsoft products. So if I look at my managed sources, which I brought up a little bit earlier, you can see there's Microsoft ones, right? We are going to develop first-party plugins for Microsoft in order to use Security Copilot. But we also allow non-Microsoft plugins to happen. So we're trying to work with as many, third-party vendors that want to work with us and integrate their products into the platform as possible. We also support custom plugins. So you can even create your own plugin based off even an OpenAI one. If you have something in OpenAI that you use constantly, you can actually move that over to Security Copilot and have it more focused on the security data. And we've even maintained a GitHub repo that has some of these community-based plugins. So for instance, if you've got a API subscription to Have I Been Pwned, there is a plugin for Have I Been Pwned. So you can actually determine like, hey, do you have any data breach? Do you have any users from your organization that are registered in Have I Been Pwned with their email addresses? Um, I mean, some of this requires additional cost, like Have I Been Pwned requires a fee in order to use this. But it's a very open platform. So if there's something that you want, like a third-party vendor that isn't there yet, and just ask them. Just be like, hey, can you look at integrating your product into Security Copilot? If you can do it from scratch, if you've got the API access and the knowledge, you can do it yourself as a custom plugin and upload it directly from here. So going back to the presentation here, I wanted to give you some guidance on how a user or an organization can get started with Security Copilot. So Security Copilot is an Azure subscription, consumption-based subscription. So you kind of need to just start by deploying one, what we call an SCU, a security compute unit, and then look at your usage and then kind of determine from there what you may need as far as like the actual number of SCUs on a regular basis. So you can start with one SCU. So one SCU is more than enough to handle a lot of the embedded experience prompts without worrying about going over or running out of compute unit capacity. So that's kind of where we recommend that you start. And then as you start bringing more people on the Security Copilot, as you start possibly doing more automation and logic apps that call Security Copilot or prompt books that would call like 15 Security Copilot tasks in a row, you may need more security compute units. You can actually move up and down security compute units as you need to. So we have a capacity usage dashboard that's available. You can take a look at that. And so each prompt that you run, you can see like, okay, well, I asked for all Intune devices. Here's how much that cost me in compute usage. You can keep track of it. You can see who did it and then plan accordingly. Uh, if you are using Security Copilot, there's no fear about like overcharging with Security Copilot. Like we allow you to use your your SCU utilization and then a little bit more. So what we'll do is like if you start running out of compute unit capacity, we actually will tell you. And then if you do run out, you'll get a prompt that says, hey, we just can't respond anymore. At that point, you can increase the security compute unit capacity, or you can wait until they renew for the next hour. A lot of customers want to ask me like, okay, well, what do I really need in order to get started? So this is some basic guidance that I provided a lot of customers is like, hey, how many of these do I need in order to just get going? So the embedded experiences, like I said, one SCU pretty much get you started, especially if you're one user and you're just kind of bouncing around from portal to portal on a regular basis. I would even say one for most everything. Like you could probably do Intra, Intune, and Purview with one SCU for the entire organization. Defender's going to cost a little bit more just because it's doing a lot more in the background as far as compute capacity. The general guidance here is that if you have like an Intune admin and you have an Intra admin, you have a SOC analyst, that you pretty much need to do one SCU for each of those products. So like if you were going to do these things on a regular basis, and you hadn't had those 3 admins, I would say 3 SCUs would be a good starting point. In the standalone experience, because we're evaluating a lot more sources and it's a lot more free-flowing. So for instance, asking a question in natural language costs more than the embedded experience's predetermined skills. So like when you do the skilling in the embedded portal, those are really cost optimized to not process like natural language so that we can do those as quickly and as cost efficient as possible for you. But when you do it in the standalone portal and you ask it in a more natural question, like we have to parse that, we have to determine what skill is being used, what you're actually asking, and then get data and everything like that. So it costs a little bit more. So, typically like 4 SCUs per hour is a good number for a standalone experience. And then calling automation with logic apps. So if you're into logic apps, if you're a heavy Sentinel user and you have logic apps, then you all of a sudden you want to call Security Copilot at like the end of your logic app. And we have customers that do that where they have a playbook in Sentinel. They run it for an incident, and then at the end they call Security Copilot to give them a summary of everything that was done during that incident. It does cost a little bit more, so 5 SCUs an hour may be more sufficient for that. So I hope that's a good demonstration of some of the main use cases in Security Copilot and how you can get started. It's very easy to get started. If you've got the Azure subscription permissions, you just have to pop into securitycopilot.microsoft.com and start your subscription. Started at 1 SCU, play around. You can always delete it whenever you want. We'll hold your data for 90 days. So if you delete it and you come back within 90 days, everything that you've set up will already be there as well. So I'm going to turn this back over to Gareth so he can kind of wrap us up.
Awesome. Thanks, Patrick. No, that was really cool to see, especially when I was sort of doing the hunting on your behalf, essentially, and combing through the environment. Really cool. Now let me guess. Back to where I was before and beyond that a little bit here. There we go. The magic of Teams. All right. So yeah, very, very exciting capabilities in there. And I'm sure Microsoft's going to, continue to develop this as well. So this is just the beginning, really, right? Because it only truly came out this year. So it's going to be very interesting to see how it evolves. And, being able to react to security incidents definitely becomes a sort of much faster scenario as the threat actors themselves are using some of these tools and capabilities as well. And being able to just take advantage of the different summarization and knowledge capabilities that are in there is really going to speed up your team's response to this stuff too. Big productivity boon for them essentially. We saw the ability to break down the script as well, very powerful. And I'll mention this in a bit again, but I know that this capability is tied into Microsoft's own threat intelligence database, which is normally charged out as a separate product, and it's just kind of trained off of it and part of it. So there's a lot of value there with threat intelligence that's not just broadly available, out on Google essentially, that this thing can draw from. So that's a huge benefit as well. And the stats kind of speak for themselves a little bit, I think. So this is feedback from the private preview program before it went generally available. There was a selection of customers that were on there, and they were taking advantage of it, and you can see how much efficiency it kind of gave them, being able to go through all those different areas and just ask the natural language questions and take advantage of some of the pre-built prompt books as well. So as someone who uses a lot of AI, I could definitely appreciate how at scale in a team it's going to make a big difference. And if you take a step back and kind of explore this problem statement a little bit here, threats, they are becoming more complex, and organizations are getting exposed all the time to new risks, advanced hacking techniques, and errors that come from misconfigurations and that kind of thing. And when we look at security teams themselves, it's really hard to get people with the right skill sets. And even when we can, security skills are really expensive. So, being able to get a team of just like good people at a certain level and then up their game with this tool set can be huge as well. Because obviously they need to have a sort of understanding of security in the first place, but this then boosts them from maybe like a tier 2 to a tier 3 level, perhaps in some cases, right? And with people in security getting kind of overwhelmed and exhausted by things, bogged down by false positives, alarms going off all over the place, tools that are disconnected, it makes it really hard to focus on more important tasks. With Copilot for Security, it definitely does help cut through a lot of that, like especially what we saw inside of Intune. I mean, I don't know how many times, I've been working with a customer and we're trying to figure out why something's non-compliant or there's a policy issue, and just being able to click and get all the summarization like that saves so much time as well. And instead of being reactive, I feel like this is going to make everyone a lot more proactive because of the sort of stuff that can surface around vulnerabilities and such like, which can be used for your organization to help guide leadership decisions and do some security goal planning and that kind of thing, help drive your roadmap. Very, very powerful suite of capabilities here to take advantage of. And ticking all these boxes down on the right hand side, tackling a lot of those challenges with these new capabilities. A few different insights here from folks that have been using it. Like Patrick said, being able just to sort of spin it up and try it, and even if you do decide to turn it down again, it'll still be out there for 90 days so that you can give it another go. Now, to touch on the threat intelligence side of it, and Patrick, you can keep me honest on this if I misspeak. So this is actually something that is available as a separate product to the Defender ecosystem, Defender Threat Intelligence. I think it carries an MSRP for commercial customers of somewhere around like 50,000 a year. So if you look at the kind of one SCU level of Copilot for Security there, this being a part of it is actually a great value add. You get a lot of value in there straight away. And that's something not to be overlooked. And like I say, this threat intelligence is coming from Microsoft security researchers that they maintain internally. It's not the stuff that's just out there on Google, right? And there's a section inside of Defender portal, Defender XDR, security.microsoft.com, where you can separately go and look at the threat intelligence reports. And it does have its own kind of API if you want to do other things with it as well. But yeah, I'm sure that API ecosystem's how the Copilot for Security is sort of tapping into that. But yeah, I guess we'll pause there for questions. If any questions come to mind, pop them in the chat, or honestly just come off mute. Feel free to ask us. But yeah, really appreciate you joining us today. Hopefully this was interesting. It was definitely very interesting for me to see Patrick kind of going through some of those different things there. And would love to capture your feedback about today's webinar, even if it was a bit more of a small, intimate one. We're always looking to do better, and Microsoft would love to capture your feedback on these products as well. And if this tool has everything in it that you want to see in it, so that QR code there, this actually goes directly to the product team. So if you scan that, you'll be able to give them some feedback. Yeah, I don't know, Patrick, any other thoughts from you here?
No, I think I'm pretty set. I don't see any questions that were asked or anything. So.
And then anyone else on my team got anything they want to share with the group? Tony, you want to say hello?
Nope. Thanks for joining, everybody. I'll follow up. I'll follow up after with the slides and the recording. Let us know if we can help.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we're gonna come in early on this one today. But like Tony said, he'll then follow up. So if there's any questions afterwards, then he'll be able to guide on that, and we'll make the recording and the slides available as well. Because yeah, some good information in here that, with this being so new as well, might not be readily available out there on the interwebs. So there we go. I guess with that then, Patrick, appreciate you coming along today and going through this process with us. It was very, very interesting to see. And yeah, thanks everyone. Have a great holiday season as we're going into it here. And yeah, Tony will be following up soon.
Thanks for having me.
all. Cheers.